148 tornadoes in 24 hours across 13 states and Canada. They ravage neighborhoods.
It looked like a bomb had gone off.
Taking hundreds of lives.
It was the scariest moment of my life.
And injuring thousands more. It is a super outbreak that is unlike anything ever recorded. One that triggered a weather forecasting revolution.
The super outbreak is the #1 event that would have an impact on the way we operate today.
On this episode of When Weather Changed History, the shocking weather catastrophe known as the Super Outbreak, and how this monumental disaster gave rise to groundbreaking discoveries and new technologies to better foresee and track killer storms.
The difference in technology between today and then is just off the charts.
An F5 tornado, perhaps the most vicious weather phenomenon. They can pack winds more than 300 miles per hour and can destroy lives in seconds.
An F4 or F5 storm literally wipes homes clean off their foundation. The only thing that remains is anything that's below ground.
Should you find yourself in the path of an F5, the National Weather Service's recommendation is clear: get underground.
Under no circumstances should they try and outrun a tornado.
The National Weather Service has 122 offices around the country, scanning the atmosphere for severe weather 24 hours a day. One tool, more than any other, powers their forecasting: advanced Doppler radar. It enables forecasters to see inside a storm and detect its potential for violence.
You can actually see winds within these thunderstorms, and that's what is so critical in order to be able to tell if a tornado is forming within the storms.
Computerized communications and a cross-country network of weather radio stations allow faster warnings than ever before.
We get the warning out literally within seconds of when we hit the enter button on our computers.
The results are definitive. Fewer Americans lose their lives in tornadoes than in years past. These advances are the legacy of April 3rd, 1974, a pivotal day in American weather history. Beginning on that day, 148 separate tornadoes, including 6 devastating F5s, would rip across the country, killing more than 300 people and injuring thousands in just 24 hours. It would become known as the Super Outbreak. April 3rd, 1974, Louisville, Kentucky. David Reeves is a lead forecaster in the Louisville office of the National Weather Service. When Reeves reports for work that afternoon, he finds his colleagues already very busy.
They were getting reports of west of here of what was going on out in West Kentucky.
The weather over the past few days has been a turbulent mix of thunderstorms and tornadoes caused by a clash of air currents.
There was a large low-pressure system off to the west. To the south was warm, moist air. To the north and northwest, cooler, drier air.
On this day, the conditions for possible tornadoes are in place.
You have to have strong winds aloft, and you have to have the instability. And in this case, we had massive proportions of both.
Reeves and his colleagues know that the weather system swirling above the U.S. is unstable and dangerous. Their technology is among the best available at the time. Meteorologists can track storm movements, but they don't have the ability to see tornadoes forming. In 1974, the National Weather Service does have radar technology, But it's not the advanced radar we know today. Invented during World War II, the older technology is better suited for tracking solid objects, like enemy aircraft. It is not well equipped for tracking tornadoes.
You have this round scope and you have this thing going around. It would put a yellow or greenish spot on, bright, just a light, a spot.
You would just see a print, basically, of the storm that was out there. It kind of looked like a green blob.
By keeping an eye on those green blobs, forecasters can track the position of the storm, but the meteorologists have to track the storm's movement by hand.
We would take a grease pencil and circle the spot on a radar and go back 15 minutes later, and we could calculate how far it moved, and we'd come up with some idea of the direction and speed of movement. But it was the best we had.
Although meteorologists can accurately forecast the severe weather, their limited radar does not see tornadoes inside the storms. And there is no way to measure a storm's severity or the potential for violent tornadoes. This will cause forecasters to underestimate the worst tornado outbreak in recorded history, which gets underway on the afternoon of April 3rd, 1974. Brandenburg, Kentucky, on the Ohio River, nearly 45 miles from Louisville. Brandenburg is a rural town of about 1,700. Jane Willis and her family run the local newspaper, the Meade County Messenger.
My father was the publisher, and my mother was the managing editor. We were very much a country paper.
About 4 p.m. after visiting friends, Jane returns to the office. Conversation at the newspaper revolves around the weather. Just 2 days earlier, 23 tornadoes had developed across the central and southern United States, causing wind damage right in their own county. That storm and the devastation it caused is fresh on the minds of the Willis family when they look outside that afternoon.
The sky turned kind of a green, yellow, and it felt different. And then my mother said, "It's a storm, it's a storm."
All right, everyone into the basement.
A massive F5 slams into the river town. The Willises and their employees scramble into the basement as the tornado roars overhead.
We were in the stairwell. Every bit of dust from this 100-year-old building was being sucked out of the woodwork.
The F5 tornado grinds through the heart of Brandenburg. Within minutes, the twister is gone, but the destruction is overwhelming. About half of the town's buildings are destroyed. 31 people are killed. Nearly 1 out of every 7 residents injured. At the Messenger newspaper office, the Willis family is unharmed. They stumble out of the basement and into a different world.
I saw devastation. The town was just destroyed. This was the end of Brandenburg as I knew it.
Jane learns that the friends she visited moments before are dead.
It was absolutely overwhelming.
About 45 miles away from Brandenburg in Louisville, Dave Reeves and his fellow forecasters at the National Weather Service have no idea what's happened. Looking at their radar, they could see the path of the storm, but they could not detect the tornado. Only when they hear news of it on the radio do they understand the reality of the green blobs on their radar.
We learned real quick that every one of those things was producing severe weather.
Now, just minutes after learning about the devastation in Brandenburg, Reeves sees another disaster looming on his radar.
The spot that caused the tornado at Brandenburg was in line. It was headed right toward us.
The storm is now heading for Kentucky's largest city, Louisville.